Hello. Hello.
This should be an interesting one because I haven't thought about racing until you just hit the button.
Boom. That's the intro. Let's go. Money Lap Podcast, baby. Sorry. Hello. Welcome. I'm Parker Kligerman, joined as always by Landon, Cassill. And before we get into everything today, we do have another new way for you to be heard on this podcast. So, moneylap.com. No longer themoneylap.com, just moneylap.com. We actually dipped into Landon's pocket and paid for that domain. We spent all of his money. I know you're just hearing this now. Sorry about that. But we spent a lot. But on there, you can leave a voicemail. You can literally say things to us using your voice and audio, and we will play it on the episodes when we'll respond to them. So go do that if you want. It's another new way to reach out to us. We've got email, we've got comments, we've got voicemail, and we want to hear from you.
This is like when a radio show back in 1999 discovered the internet.
It's new. Yeah, no one else is doing this. Not every other podcast on the planet.
You can actually listen to us on the internet.
Oh, internets. Wow.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that like the interweb?
It's a library, but it's all on your computer.
I was pretty sure the internets were the net you got inside the swim trunk, right? Okay, moving on. It's the net inside the swim trunk.
Okay.
Today, we're going to talk NASCAR Cup Series rules, broadcasts, and a new race. For Xfinity, we'll talk some of the racing. Obviously, my race, maybe some of what 2025 is looking like. I think you're going to see a lot of changes. And the Europeans have finally rid themselves of another American tourist this summer. We're talking F1, of course. And more controversy in IndyCar. But we start with the PR lap, Landon, where we talk about ourselves. Before we get to the reviews, which we do have a metric ton of reviews because suddenly people decided and got motivated to leave us great reviews. So we're going to have to go through those fairly quickly. Just my race, finished third at Daytona this past Friday. Pretty big points day, 45 points on the day. Went from plus 16 above the cut line to plus 44. Overall, pretty good day in that sense. Obviously had a coming together with A.J. Allmendinger in the last lap. Some of my thought process there as we came to that final lap was, as I was on the top, third car on the top because the 20 cleared us off of 2, was to push the 16, the 20 out so that I could get clear of the bottom because I felt like the stages were sort of one off the bottom and that bottom had a really good run for about a lap or so, especially with side draft, and could clear the leader by turn 3. And so I wanted to get to the bottom, saw the availability of clearing the 98, had a run with the 81 pushing me, go left. AJ decides to come with, probably too late, spins across my nose, caution comes out. Unfortunate because for 99 laps I was very committed to his rear bumper and pushing him because we couldn't really lead, but it was really easy to push him. And yeah, so we finished third. But strong night. Thought we could have had more, but I thought overall, at least, it was we were in position and did the right things to be there, and it was a night we needed with that 20-point penalty out of Michigan, and just not probably being in the points position we wanted to be this close to the cutoff.
So where does that put you points wise? So
we're still 9th, but we're 44 to the good. We're actually only 15 points behind Jesse Love right now for 8th. So yeah, with 4 races to go, obviously a lot to play for.
What's your average finish on super speedways in that car? It's got to be
God, I don't know, like in the top 5. Yeah, it's got to be top 5. I mean,
what's your worst finish at a super speedway?
Well, Talladega this year, we were leading on the final restart, ran out of fuel, and got junked. And then actually at Atlanta earlier this year, we were on the front row for the final restart and ran out of fuel. Those two, though,
Damn
those two kind of
Parker, you did not drive the car to the right fuel mileage strategy.
Yeah, nope, that's my fault. It's all me. So let's talk some reviews, my man. We got a lot here. Let's try and rip through them. I'll start with the first one here. Great show, 5 stars. Seth Hagen here. I really enjoy listening. Oh, we just doxed him. I really enjoy listening to your show. You guys always have interesting takes on the events. Plus, both of you being drivers makes me know you guys know what you're talking about. Well, we think we do. I don't know about that. Too many podcasts with guys who never ran a car. Yeah, okay. Thank you guys for the entertainment. Keep it up. 5 stars from HGFHUGH. You want this next one?
Also known as Seth Hagen. God, that's 2 weeks in a row.
Your personal information is not safe on the Money Lap podcast.
Yeah, I'm Ron Burgundy.
No.
Marky Mark 1986. What a pod listening to this great podcast. It's clear these guys don't have very attentive PR people, and it's all the better for it. Wow.
Oh,
that's the first time in my life I've been accused of that. Love the laid-back conversational format. Conversational. We just conversate.
Just conversate. Yeah.
Just conversate. The people listen. They like to hear you.
Oh,
just
damn, look at this.
You know.
Hey,
just tell them what you know. But,
hey, man,
Parker.
let's just conversate about this. Yeah, he says, keep up the good work. Parker, here's hoping you make that playoff cutoff line. Got a feeling you're going to win Daytona. Keep digging. Damn, he was not far off.
He could be looking into the future.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
That's going to take an act of
great
God.
racing insight from C-Town 55. Really cool, very cool to be able to listen to some racers talk and listen to their insight. Thank you, C-Town. Ready for the upcoming Kansas race in the fall. Let me know if you need barbecue recommendations. Oh, okay. C-Town must be from
5 stars, by the way. We only talk about the 5-star ones. We only have 5-star reviews. One of the best 5 stars by MJSP rating. I listen to multiple NASCAR podcasts every week, and this has quickly become one of my favorites. Great job, guys. Keep it up. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Spotify, we did have a lot of reaction out there. Mo Coolio. Hey, Parker, thanks for the shout-out in the pod last week. You said something about paying for college. Feel free to give the Money Lap scholarship. I'm a sports management major, so it would be helpful. Landon is cool, too. I paid for – what? When did we offer to pay for people's college?
We need to go back and listen. Sometimes I just say things and then I forget them the moment I say them.
Hey, speaking of PR, can we get a PR person on this thing? Because apparently we're offering to pay for people's college.
I will talk to somebody after our show and they'll be like, yeah, I listened to this week's pod. I really liked what you said when you were explaining that XYZ, and I'm like, what did I say about that part? I don't remember. What was my opinion there? I don't know.
Ed Rod Vega remembers. He says, I think in Daytona they can bring 5 or 6 racing cars because in Daytona it's road course, oval, and dirt. 2 F1 cars, NASCAR sprint cars, Indy cars, and a sports car rally. Oh, this was our what cars you would do between Max Verstappen and Kyle Larson. Mm-hmm. So that's what he's saying there. And then Matherly Tim, I don't know how to say that. Love the podcast, and just remember NASCAR fans will turn on the TV no matter what time the race is, not what some media company says I will turn it on.
That is a dedicated fan right there.
There you go. We love the dedication. Absolutely. Just like I said, the actual facts say otherwise. But no.
A true dedicated fan.
Yeah.
Like Matherl Tim.
Matherl Tim. Yep.
Yeah. A true fan like that is going to watch all hours. Doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, exactly. But that's not who they're trying to get. They know they're going to get that. They want to get the people that might not. Yeah. Let's rip through these YouTube ones. Kim Vickery, you all kind of touch on it in this week's episode, but how exactly are the distances for racetracks measured? Outside, inside, center? Because Daytona from the outside is easily a quarter mile longer than Daytona from the inside. Isn't it the middle or the bottom?
I have no idea.
So I know about this is actually a controversy because some places are in the middle, some places are the bottom, and some places are the top, depending on what size they actually want the racetrack to be. And that is not a lie. I know that
more about how pit road is measured than I do how the racetracks are measured.
That shows what you were focused on. I like that. You were the best on pit road.
I should have been the best on the racetrack. Maybe I should have focused more on the racetrack measurement.
We're just figuring it out. That's what we've been doing wrong this whole
ask me anything
time.
about how pit road is measured, because that one I'd never really. Yeah, I don't know. I do know that I'm pretty sure they made Texas Motor Speedway smaller when they did the renovation there, and they made it smaller than 1.5 miles, which is so anti-Texas and was like basically a meme in my brain. Everything is supposed to be bigger in Texas, yet when they remodeled the racetrack, they made it less than 1.5 miles.
Oh my god! You should read this next one. It's for you.
Oh, okay. Shadow Heart 1665. I'm going to read this in real time. Okay, so don't know. I want to give Landon some love. He was the first NASCAR driver I met in 2018 in Las Vegas playoff race. I was hella nervous, but he took time to sign my autograph book and took a minute to talk with me. Legendary driver, and want to see him back. Oh,
hey.
What a review. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shadowheart. I appreciate that. First of all, 2018 Vegas. Yeah, it was good times, man. I was probably driving for Starcom at the time. I bet I was just happy to be there.
Was that mane and tail when you had that sponsor?
That might have been the mane and tail car. I don't know if we ever drove that car in Vegas.
Oh, I just love saying mane and tail. I don't know why.
Going to Vegas with the Starcom group was always a good time. Be honest with you there.
What'd you guys do? Go to a local library and church?
We always had a good time.
Yeah. I like to frequent the library there in Vegas.
Yep. Garrett a good time in Vegas.
It makes me think of that Moneyball scene when they're talking to the Giambi's brother in it, and they're like, you're comped up and down Vegas. Like, what does that say about you? And he goes, I love it. It's the best response. I love it. Speaking of loving it, AGT Washington Tub. What the heck? Washington Tub? I love that YouTube's auto caption here is Landon Cassill instead of Landon Cassill. That outranks Blaney being translated as Bird Lady on the Spanish call of his ruffle win. That's a good one.
So two things real quick. I don't know. I think Bird Lady is a pretty good one for Blaney. Second of all, I am seeing a picture here. Thank you, Josh, for posting a picture of me driving the Starcom Fiber throwback paint scheme in Vegas that I clearly had run at Darlington like
I was gonna say, just the throwback never stopped.
You just that is just a hallmark of small team racing when you get to see throwback paint schemes over and over again.
Is it still a throwback if you run it more than once because that's just the primary scheme?
That's how you just throw your shoulder out. But you just throw it back too many times.
Too many times. Rappers would say otherwise.
Oh man,
yeah. So they have some mean tweets. It was
like
the
only way to get Johnny Davis to convince him to run a throwback scheme. It was like, we'll just keep the rap on it for the next 8 consecutive weeks.
It's amortizing the cost, guys. This is business 101. Jeez, business spelled B-U-Q-Q-Q.
Isn't it kind of crazy? I'm just automatically just going down a rabbit hole. Isn't it kind of crazy to think of the money that we spend in the sport? That it's like $2,000 for a wrap, $3,000 for a wrap, right? Yep. And we wrap the cars every week.
Every week.
Yep. $3,000 a week.
Who else? The wrap company would be a good business.
Even if you're a listener by yourself, show of hands, who would like to make $3,000 a week?
I would.
Their job?
I would.
Who would like to make $3,000 a week?
That sounds tremendous.
Now, not that the $3,000 a week all goes towards one person. It's not all labor. But, geez, $3,000 a week.
So maybe we make so to pay for that guy's college. I got an idea. We tell the race teams no more wraps. Just pay us $1,500 a week, all of you combined, and we'll do better with the money than you doing wraps. Solved. It's like the old. It's
then
the
cars
old.
Don't look like anything.
I know. Then it's so lame. It's all about entertainment. You know what? I've always made a joke about racing, which is like if someone's thinking about starting a race team, whatever, and it's like, all right, no, we've done the math. It's going to cost you, $10 million over the next 3 years. Blah blah. You're going to own nothing, or it's like, hey, give me $5 million. We'll put it into a very conservative fund here. I'll take half the percent. You take half, and in 3 years, when you haven't gone racing, we'll give you the money back. It's like you'll have just as much fun. So anyway, you didn't like that joke. You don't like my service.
I didn't get it.
It's like you're being a service. Hey, whatever. Moving on. God, that's showbiz, baby. We're moving on. We're moving off the mean tweets. We're not doing. They got some mean tweets in here. We're not going to do it. We're going to do this more properly sometime.
They're too mean.
Well, they're just kind of weird. And like one of them,
I don't
is
care
just
about
too,
mean tweets.
They're just too fun.
You guys wanted to do this whole mean tweets thing.
Yeah.
I don't care about mean tweets.
No, we're not doing mean tweets. We're not bringing this negativity in here. Yeah, no.
You know what? You know what we're not going to skip though.
What's that?
We're not going to skip SpoilerDiecast.com.
Hell yeah.
If you're a racing enthusiast looking for high-quality diecast and apparel, look no further than SpoilerDiecast.com, one of the fastest-growing companies in the industry. What sets them apart, Parker?
What is it?
Let me tell you. At SpoilerDiecast.com, they pride themselves on excellent service. All orders ship either same or next day, ensuring that you get your hands on your favorite products in no time. Best part, they have free shipping on orders over $20. That's right, you get a smooth and affordable shopping experience with SpoilerDiecast.com. They have over 1,100 unique products currently in stock. I'm on a record pace right now, Parker. SpoilerDiecast.com boasts one of the largest inventories in the industry. They are NASCAR-focused, but they do have a wide range of diecast and apparel options. And that's not all. They have dirt, sprint cars, Indy cars, F1, everything you need. They're passionate race fans. They're just like us. We all grew up in the era of diecasts in the bottom floor of a shopping mall. I wish that you could just bottle that up and still have it. And you can at SpoilerDiecast.com.
Whew. That was a good one. That's up there, man.
It was a good read.
That was a good read. It was a good transition. It was definitely a lap record. I'm not going to lie. We were blowing steam out at the end of the lap. We hit about 280 on the water temp, but we were rolling. Let's talk some racing. We start with the NASCAR Cup Series. I've also been told to put light on my face by producer Josh because he says I look like a vampire today. I have something blocking for the sound, but it's blocking the light. I don't know how to solve this. I'm not a mathematician. So we're going to talk racing. And we start with the Cup Series at Daytona this past weekend. As we talked about my race at Daytona. One big topic as we left Saturday night was, and as I sat at the Infield Care Center and was was going to interview Joey Logano towards the end of the race, and about to interview Michael McDowell, who had just went up in the air and landed on Joey Logano's race car. As that's happening, Joey and I are standing there. We're about to do the interview, and there goes the 4-car of Josh Berry. Mm-hmm. And he flies through the air and then hits the wall at the worst angle, upside down, so on and so forth. We don't hear, we couldn't hear anything. He hadn't said anything on the radio, and then eventually gave a thumbs up, I guess. But, really scary incidents. Joey had some definite choice words in our interview, and even before he reiterated what he said to me personally, and then on his interview, which was that they had to go to work. This is not what we want to see. So, Landon, is it a NASCAR problem or is it a physics problem?
Or is it a problem?
Is it a problem? Okay, expand, please. Is it a problem?
I am not going to die on this hill. But is it a problem? I mean, it's a problem until we get someone hurt.
Yes.
But
correct.
Until we get someone hurt, the replays are pretty sweet.
Okay.
I mean, if Ryan Preece can go through what he did last year and not, miss a race.
Mm-hmm. So, let's expand on this for a second, and I think there is going to be some serious overreaction to what we've just said, and that's fine. They'll get clipped, and people will overreact, and they're not going to fully understand.
I started it with saying that I wasn't going to die on the hill.
No, you weren't going to die on the hill.
I don't want to flip in them. I don't want to fly through the air in them.
So
Josh
I have
Berry
flipped.
Did get out and say, it was not as bad as it looked.
Yeah, well, and think about Corey LaJoie just a week prior. Literally said the same thing. He said it wasn't as bad as, basically, I'm fine. Yeah. And when I look at Josh and I look at Corey's, those are the worst hits I could imagine upside down. The only thing worse would be a car actually going roof first into a wall at a high rate of speed, right? Because that could be, that's really one, the way you're hitting in the belts, everything, and then also the structural integrity of the top of the race car being tested in a major way. Now, that's one thing Jeff Burton pointed out in the broadcast. That 4-car does not lose its structural integrity. That 7-car did not lose its structural integrity in terms of the roof and such. So once again, this car is a bit of a tank, as we've seen. So, to your point, if it's actually, it seems to be a very, a great safety cell, is it that large of an issue I will say this. One of those cars going into the catch fence may have an entirely different result, of which would be a major problem, right? And that's where I think cars going in the air is a huge issue, right? That's the problem.
That is a problem. That is the impending doom.
Yes.
If Kyle Busch turns Harrison Burton,
scary.
You got a Harrison Burton with a front row seat.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's the problem.
The Richard
that's
Petty
scary.
grandstands. That's not good.
And that's like, so when I know what you're saying, which is like in the event of these ones that happen on the backstretch of Michigan, the backstretch of Daytona, or the turns 1 and 2, you're really not, those areas are designed for something like this to happen, and the car has runway and there's open space and there's no grandstands surrounding or whatever. But to your point, that happening on the front stretch, which is very liable to happen, because if there's a way to wreck in a super speedway, the NASCAR Cup Series will find it.
Here's my actual problem with it. And
That's scary.
It is a problem. It is a problem, but here's my actual problem with it. It's my opinion that as long as cars are going 200 miles an hour, you're going to have a hard time keeping them on the ground when they get turned around backwards. That's just I think that's physics. I think that we've seen that with multi-generational cars. Oh, shit, I guess we had this conversation on the pod last week.
Yep.
Right after Michigan. So I think where it's a problem for me is when the car goes up in the air and you see the underside of the car, and it almost appears like we have the car designed in such a way that we're helping it get in the air.
Yeah.
That is the problem. Like, what are we really gaining by having a sealed underbody, pan underneath the car? What are we gaining when the car is in its regular platform on the racetrack that is worth dealing with the cars going in the air or having a liftoff speed that seems to be 10, 20 miles an hour lower than what it used to be?
Yeah.
Right? Because and what I mean by that is we never saw cars lift off at Michigan before. Cars got spun like Corey LaJoie did plenty of times at Michigan, but they didn't lift off. Well, now Corey LaJoie gets spun going 180 miles an hour, sliding sideways, and now he's only going 155, 160 when it gets lifted off.
Well, remember there was the wind. There was a 20-mile-an-hour wind.
There's still 20 miles. Well, I mean airspeed, right? So whatever the airspeed is. So I don't know what the actual liftoff speed is in this new Cup car, but it seems to be that it's got to be 10 miles an hour lower than it used to be, right? Yeah. So, and then when the car goes in the air, just common sense, and anybody that's been around race cars long enough can look at that underbelly and be like, I think that has something to do with it, right? That's the problem for me. It's just like, well, it seems like we made a step backwards. My original take about is it a problem and cars flying through the air, I don't, it's not the end of the world for me as long as they're not going to the catch fence. It's not the end of the world for me because it's like, hey, we're going 200 miles an hour. They're going to go in the air at some point. They're going to get hit at the right angle. Something's going to happen. We could do all the work in the world and all the research, spend all the money, redesign the cars. And at some point, something's going to get turned sideways and it's going to go up in the air. Right? To me, it's not at the level of this is unacceptable, stop the presses. It's like, another one went in the air. So, now I would do not want to see one turn backwards, through the tri-oval and go up in the air and go into the catch fence. Although we've seen that happen. And it can happen even without this design of car. I mean, the times that it has happened, Kyle Larson, Austin Dillon, those were cars that weren't prone to liftoff.
Yep.
But because they lifted off and went into the catch fence because you're coming to the checkered flag and it's a tight field and cars hop wheels and created liftoff. Right.
Josh actually pointed out that the 28 car at Michigan in Xfinity flipped. So
yeah, and that was a liftoff. Interesting.
Yeah, and to your, but that's also, there was a big heavy wind that day. So I think in a lot of ways, you said it best. It's potentially a physics problem that you just have to be prepared for. And if you're going to race super speedways in packs, this is going to happen. And if the drivers aren't getting hurt and they're all, the car seems to have serious structural integrity, which is a massive plus. Yet it's able to deform better than it used to for rear and frontal impacts. I think in a vacuum where there isn't fans around the racetrack, maybe not a problem, right? And drivers are signing up for this, and they know the problem, and they know what the chance is. But it is that scary, foreboding, thing out there of how bad could this go, right? Where it isn't drivers that are the problem; it's the patch fence, the stands, so on and so forth. Josh, what do you want? You're inquiring.
So
you have a question.
We removed the grass on the back stretch after the whole Prix situation because our reaction was this is the grass's fault. But was the asphalt actually worse for the flip?
No, because it slid. It didn't.
No, I think it's better
tumble.
for the after flip.
Yeah,
okay.
I would say better. Yeah.
Yeah, and
don't tumble.
I'm not going to act like I was some expert on it before. I think I learned this just by seeing Josh Berry's flip that, the asphalt maybe is helpful, but it obviously was negligible whether it prevented the liftoff, because we've had 3 cars in 2 weeks or however long it's been lift off on smooth asphalt. But obviously having sliding on asphalt prevented a worse, more violent wreck following the liftoff.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because that's what made Ryan Preece's wreck so violent, was he lifted off and then landed in grass, and it just ripped the car to shreds and made him barrel roll.
And at the end of Corey's at Michigan, he gets into the grass, and then it creates
and he was only going 20 miles an hour at that point.
And it looked vicious, right? And you watch the onboard, it's violent. So
yeah,
no, the grass is definitely not a plus. Let's move on. We'll see what happens. NASCAR will continue to react. They react.
Sweet replay.
Yeah, there you go. It's gonna be. Oh, it's gonna be played all the time, it's they always react. They reacted after Michigan with the right side deflector on the window, and I'm sure there'll be more coming. So it's always a work in progress. We'll see if they can defy physics at some point. The winner of this race this past weekend, Harrison Burton, was 34th in points, last place of full-time drivers, won the race, is now in the playoffs, as NASCAR last year basically removed the top 30 in points requirement that used to be there for winning you're in. He is the first driver born in the 21st century to win a cup race. That's really weird to say. Thanks for writing that, Josh. I guess so. He's born in 2000 or 2001. Josh,
he's the first driver born in the 2000s to win
a cup race. Yes.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Can we, before we get into all this, can we just make one point that deserves to be made? Because we were so disappointed after the Daytona 500. I remember being sad on this podcast. How awesome was it to see a great Cup Series finish at a super speedway?
No, it was epic. Amazing.
They didn't just all wreck coming to the line.
Yep. And
there was
Busch
a lot of wrecks.
Had the chance.
There was a lot of pushing, a lot of wrecks. But to see a race for the finish and fair moves, and I loved it.
Well, and I was walking off pit road after the race, and I turned to my pit spotter and I said, Kyle Busch had the chance to turn him. And maybe 10 years ago he does. But I said that was a guy who looked at, in the moment, thought, I'm not going to wreck this guy at the line into the field. That's too far. And I thought that was a pretty amazing thing because he had that chance to do it. And I think he really did.
Kyle is a real pain in the ass, and he's notorious for his attitude and his filter, lack thereof, his response, his reaction, his emotions, all those things. But every once in a while you get to see what a true professional he is. He's first of all, by the way, he's being a true professional at all times. The guy is an absolute pro, Hall of Famer, easy, no doubt,
easy,
right? First ballot Hall of Famer.
Yep. And
every single week, I'm not suggesting that he's just a hit or miss on being a pro, but it's like sometimes we get so caught up in the drama with Kyle because he's so polarizing. There's just always some kind of drama that you don't see what kind of true tactical professional he is in his job. And that was a moment of it where it's just like, there's a lot of drivers out there, and we saw them at Richmond, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, these guys have big name sponsors, drive for big name teams and big name rides, and they're professionals of every letter, and then you put them in a high pressure situation where everything's on the line and they cross the line.
Yep.
Right? Or they do some dumb stuff. And I'm not saying that Kyle's never done dumb stuff in his career, but like, I don't know. He's having a year, right? He's just having this year. And you would think that of all times for Kyle Busch to have a pass to do something, now's the time. And yet,
it's a great point.
But he didn't.
Great point. Yeah. No, he didn't. And that's you just articulated what I was thinking as I walked off pit road. That exact thing of like, he's such a pro and he has such mental capacity that in that high pressure moment, he's not won this year. He's not going to make the playoffs without a win. He's going to lose his streak of 19 straight years of winning. And there it is all in front of him. And he doesn't take the bait.
Yeah.
He thinks,
and he might do it next week.
He might just totally clear someone out, probably.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's like, and we'll have a different conversation.
Really.
And we'll have a different conversation about it, right?
Yep.
And we'll analyze it or whatever. But it's worth saying that, because you made a good point. Like, he could have just absolutely junked Harrison right there, and I don't think anybody would have blamed him, or it would have been just the normal polarization of Kyle Busch.
Yep.
Right, and you would have had plenty of argument to stand on, or plenty of leg to stand on to make the argument that, like, oh, he needed the win. How do you blame him? He's had a rough year, and it's Kyle. You know how he gets. But it's like, people don't see that he's capable of the other side, right, of restraint.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, it's a great point.
He deserves some credit there.
I know people are going to say, call me out on this. I said I've never seen him do that. We did see him take out Ron Hornaday at the truck race in Texas, 2010-ish. Like, pile drive him the wall. So that was over the top.
Well, I said he didn't. It's not like he's never done anything stupid.
No, I'm saying no. You said I did. I said I'd never seen him do it, and then I was like, wait a second, I have. But that's a long time ago.
That wasn't even for a win. That was just because he was pissed around Hornaday.
Yeah. So, and the other side, one last thing to add on to Kyle Busch, not to make this a Kyle Busch love fest, but you mentioned the professionalism and the pro, and just that he's a Hall of Famer and everything. I've gotten to be there in the last 2 years for some of his sim sessions or be around it and just he's an encyclopedia of driving and racing, and it's just I've known that when I drove for him back in 2013, I got some of that, but he was still a little bit way younger, way more immature, and now he's just like I imagine it's like in football, towards the end of his career, like a Peyton Manning, like being around him at the end of like a practice or something, and being able to see his process and his knowledge, and you're just like, oh, this guy's another level. That's Kyle to me. So let's keep this discussion going. One thing I think a lot of people are discussing this week, and it is interesting, is, for years people are like, winning doesn't matter. We want winning to matter, right? They go to this winning you're in thing, and people start to see, yes, it matters. Then we get to the next gen era. The parity throughout the field becomes the best we've ever seen, and now suddenly, I believe, what this weekend proved, that a guy that's the dead last in regular season points could now find himself vaulting into the playoffs and vaulting all the way up to being the top 16, shows that winning has never mattered more than right now in the NASCAR Cup Series. Case in point, Bubba Wallace. He has more than double the points of Harrison Burton. But as of this moment, he will not be in the playoffs unless he does something exceptional at Darlington. Most of all, win. And it's like, look, it's all that matters. None of this other shit matters. Like, it's just win. Like, right now, everyone wanted this, and back, for the last 20 years, they want winning to matter, and it's got to try harder. And remember, 20 years or 15 years ago, we're riding around. Yeah, we're riding around under, midway point of the race. We're waving, the give and take thing. We're waving each other by. The Mark Martin, hey, come on by. The Tony Stewart, come on by. No, that's gone. It's all gone, because all that matters is winning. So I think it's pretty fascinating that, what this exposed. And I see a lot of people be like, oh, this is ridiculous, top 20 in point, or, what happened to the top 30? And it was like, well, what's it matter? You show up to every race? Okay, you win? Boom, you're in. That's all that matters. You got 26 races to win. Good luck.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. This is a product of the design. It's interesting. I mean, I think this is to kind of to peel back at a conversation we had even about Corey LaJoie and the future of his career, this is like, has this not trickled down to all aspects of the sport of like keeping your ride, the value of these drivers? I mean, we happen to know that Harrison Burton, by winning, has more support from Ford, the manufacturer, should he drive for a Ford next year, right, in the Cup Series. These manufacturers are putting more money behind drivers that have wins on their resume. And it's like, this is, agree with it or not, it's obviously these are just all a product of the design of the series. NASCAR, they weren't shy about it. They did not apologize about it, and they do not apologize about it, that they, want to put an emphasis on winning. So
I think it fits the NASCAR culture so well right now that this
right now
this is the culture, this is the design. Now, is it the culture of 20 years ago? No, that was about consistency over a season. You're on the circuit, you're on the NASCAR circuit, and it's a 36 race, 32 probably at that time race, 34 race.
I got a thought on this. So
okay,
there's
you're allowed to. You are half this podcast. You can take your thoughts and put them out there.
Do you almost think, I've never really thought of this before?
Josh, look what
in
we're
this
dealing with
manner.
here.
I have thought of NASCAR racing as a mid-level endurance. It's not endurance racing. There actually is endurance racing, right? 24-hour racing stuff. But NASCAR racing is the longest race and the longest schedule in all of motorsports, right?
Oh, yes, by far.
500-mile races is a long time, right? Like F1 races aren't that long. IndyCar races aren't that long.
No.
Even at a time, like you have the Indy 500,
has
but
one.
like,
yeah, okay, I was gonna say they got one.
Yeah, the Indy 500. But the other thing too is like the cars are going twice as fast, right? So the races are never short.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But like all their other races are not that long. Time, duration, laps, everything, and NASCAR for decades was 500-mile races. They used to do 500 laps at Dover. Right?
I know.
Like 500.
My God.
I raced 500 miles at Pocono twice a year for the first 6 years of my career.
That should be your admittance to therapy. Like, I raced 500 miles at Pocono twice
about
a
it in
year.
therapy every week. So, for decades, NASCAR had the longest races in the world, aside from true endurance racing. But they, pair that with also the longest schedule, 38 races. And so, and then there was a season-long championship. Was there this underappreciated brand that NASCAR had, or identity that NASCAR had, that kind of just got glossed over, that we are an endurance season and endurance, like the races are about durability and endurance? And did we kind of like just sweep that under the rug in this new era of win and you're in? Now we have, we shortened a lot of races to 400 miles. We have stage breaks, so there aren't, you don't have as long runs. Like, the people that are still complaining about this format, are those the people that we didn't, acknowledge that like part of NASCAR's identity was that it wasn't just cool to see production vehicles go really, really fast on a big speedway, but to see how long they could go that fast for?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Did we kind of miss that? Because
I think you're right.
I have my heart, like, I have a deep love for 500-mile races. Like, there's just a difference between 400 and... Like, there is a big difference. It's about 100 miles, but there's a big difference.
If you can actually account for it, if you do some math here.
You're really trying to zero in on it. It's, a give or take. It's about 100 miles, but there's a big
100
difference.
miles.
Like, to go a 500-mile race, like, that was one thing in the last few years of running Cup, especially because it cut out so many 500-mile races. I grew to appreciate them, right? Like,
yep.
Those last couple times we went to Texas, and it was like, oh,
dude. My first Cup
500
start
miles at Texas
was a 500-miler at Texas, 2013, and that race was so
it's a long day, bud.
Long, dude. It was.
It was a long ass day.
It was a long ass day. We started in the daytime ended way late at night. And I remember getting the last run I drove by. We were so fast that day. Finished 18th. It was awesome. And I went by Marcus Ambrose and like 30 laps to go. And I remember he was the last car I could pass like on the lap I was on. And I remember being like, oh, God, there's still 30 laps. Like, this is possible.
Dude,
this is the longest
Southern
race.
500.
Oh,
Like, the first time I raced in a Southern 500, I mean, that race is...
I burnt my foot.
How many laps is that race?
It's 300. No, it's 367. I want to say. Josh, check if I'm right. 367.
I will look it up right now.
My first Southern 500.
Hold on. If I'm right, I want some sort of reward. By the way,
I think it's 367. I think you're right.
Damn it.
My first Southern 500, I remember like going through 2 cycles of green flag pit stops and then a caution, and being just absolute my forearms are pumped and I'm just dying. I'm out of water. I'm like breathing, and I look up and we're not even halfway done yet.
So to that point, I think we went like multiple green flag stops of that Texas race, and then I remember doing a Darlington like that as well. And to your point, like your arm, you would be doing an hour and a half straight, like a whole truck race of a green flag run, and you'd get done and your arm was like, oh, here it comes back to life. My right arm, like, oh my God. I'd go down the straightaways doing this all the time. So I want to just expand on it real quick.
I don't know.
I think it's a great point.
You were correct. It's 367 laps. And for your prize, you get to race in the Xfinity Series race this upcoming weekend.
Thank you. Can't wait.
Yeah.
That's also 147 laps, and it's super short.
I know,
it's like one of the shortest races of the year. It's so funny. The Xfinity race is always the shortest race of the year, and it's the longest race. By time, the Southern 500 is the longest race in NASCAR. It's longer than the Coca-Cola 600 on average. It's about 100 miles shorter, Landon, but by time, it is longer. Yeah, we know that because I've done the Southern 500 broadcast multiple times, and I've done it after racing trucks and then going and doing the broadcast, and it's the longest broadcast in NASCAR. And tell me, I was chugging a monster the last time I did that at the end because I was going to fall over. So thank you, Monster, on the pit road there. But I want to expand on your point real quick, and then we've got to move on because we have so many things to dive into. Yes, they did gloss over that. Yes, that has gone away. And I think one thing that really changed why that went away was that if you look in the mid-2000s, we stopped having engine failures, cars breaking. And it became that the cars were no longer being tested because it became so scienced out, right? And then it became monotonous runs for the TV side, right? And that's where this all started to shift. And I think you can basically track it as you get from the early 2000s to the mid-2000s, the DNFs, the car reliability goes exponentially up, and that is the moment at which we lost the idea of like 36 weeks on the NASCAR circuit. Each one's worth the same as the other, right? And you just race to race, and it's just you accrue points, and then the best at the end of the year wins. That's where it all changed. So, and I think the playoffs definitely, the chase and then the playoffs changed it. Let's talk about someone that Harrison Burton, I hope, said thank you to, and I haven't seen anything on this, but I hope he did. Parker Retzlaff, the other Parker, pushed him down the backstretch to clear the 8 car, and a monster push, a really effective push, and basically got Harrison to lead. Apparently, the 62 team was asked to not push to 21 in hopes of helping the 8 car of Kyle Busch. The 62 Beard Motorsports is, I see it often in the shop there. They have sort of a loose relationship with RCR in terms of being a part-time car that is sort of set up and prepared by RCR. I got a couple problems with this. Should I talk about them?
I'm listening.
Should I air it out here?
Yeah.
I've got a real problem with this trend I see as of late, and I see it continuing not just in this situation, but I've seen it in other areas of the sport, and that is that the idea that somebody should have loyalty to someone else when that other entity does almost nothing for them. And my point of that is you see this especially with the teams where drivers are bringing the full budget, right? Maybe it's 2 teammates who bring the full budget, and they're supposed to have some veiled loyalty to each other, where the team doesn't realize that they're just an operator. They don't realize that the drivers should be looking out for themselves right? We've seen this. And in this situation, when I look at that 62, and I don't know intimately, and I can ask some people at RCR and such, but I would say, hey, just curiosity. That sponsor, that's Parker Retzlaff's sponsor. It's on his Xfinity car. Assume it's attached to him. 62 Beard Motorsports. I guess they get their car prepared, but I'm sure they pay for it. I'm sure they pay for the engine there, right? Is Parker Retzlaff an RCR driver? Nope. Does his team that he drives for in the Xfinity Series use ECR motors? Yeah, but I'm sure they pay for them. So what I'm trying to figure out, and I guess people were angry at him, in what world is he supposed to... Well, I see it on the internet, and the teams had some altercation after the race, and there was a lot of conjecture.
The teams had an altercation?
Yeah, a bit of anger, I think, from what I understand. Oh, my goodness. I think I just got more light, Josh. My door just opened here. Anyway, there was, this conjecture. I think the part that bothers me there is that what loyalty does he have to them? At the end of the day, if he finishes second in that race by pushing Kyle Busch and lays over and then never gets another Cup start again, but he stood there and saw a chance to maybe win a Cup race in his second ever start, how would he sleep at night? Never would. And what is RCR going to call him and say, hey, man, thanks for that. We're going to give you a full Xfinity ride. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. So
I'm pretty sure let's tell the flip side of the story. I'm pretty sure he could have right hooked Kyle Busch into the fence, and RCR would still take their money to field a car at Talladega in the fall.
1,000%, and that's the best part.
That's
1,000%. That's the point. The point is, there's no loyalty. It's literally financial only, and there's just I think it stems from 20 years ago when you had people got hired and you were then you're working for them. But in this new era where 90% of it is brought by you're just the teams are mostly operators. There's no loyalty. You're out for yourself, and you should be. Like, Parker Retzlaff should have done the best for him in that moment and his sponsor and the people paying for it, and he did. He did what he thought was his best thing. He pushed the 21 out because he had a huge run that maybe puts him in a position to win that race. Like, what? What world is he supposed to just lay over and help another car? Like, I just find that so infuriating.
I think it's a message to I think there's a message to the drivers in this, the aspiring drivers of Parker Retzlaff of the world, because here's the thing is you can't blame RCR or whoever told him what to do or whoever asked the beard spotter or the beard crew chief to tell him what to do. You can't blame him for asking. If you don't ask, you don't get it, right?
Fine.
So ask for some help, ask for some support. I mean, that's just relationships, so that's fine. The expectation of it is another level. And I think that the message is not to those at RCR of like, how dare you put this expectation. I think the message is more to the drivers like Parker Retzlaff and just be like, keep doing you. Don't you worry about it. As long as you have that sponsor backing you, and as long as you put yourself in position to win in a Cup race at Daytona, you will have no shortage of teams who will put you in a car.
Exactly.
So I do not care what, I don't know, name the guy, Mike, Dillon, Danny Lawrence, whoever is there, like whoever at RCR got mad at your team for not pushing Kyle Busch, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Doesn't matter.
Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter if Richard Childress got mad. Don't worry about it. Keep doing you. Keep doing you.
Still probably sell you an engine.
Yeah, he'll still sell you an engine in October when it's time to go to Talladega. Like that's the thing is like, and it's almost like 3 degrees of business transaction here because Retzlaff and his sponsor brought money to Beard, who then paid RCR, right? Like
it's just exactly. I love how you put that because you did it better than me. But it's like, if you're a young driver, protect your loyalty. Man. Is to do it should be to yourself and to do what's best for you and the people helping you be there, and that's all.
And here's the thing: I will add a little nuance to this. It's just like, hey, relationships are also important, right?
Yeah.
So
sure.
I mean, if it's important to your relationship to be welcome in Richard Childress's bus, like or whatever it is, or whatever. God, I did not mean that the way it sounded out. That was
Josh, what are we dealing with here? This guy.
Dude,
my point is relationships are important, right? You still got to be a human being. You still are going to sit in debrief meetings with these people because it was their, they supply the car, whatever. But like at the end of the day, that's if they truly want a patsy to help Kyle Busch win the race, that's what the 33 program is for.
Exactly, and he was there,
right?
But he wasn't in a position. It's
if
like
they
that's
truly
what you have
needed
them
you
for.
to be a patsy for Kyle Busch to make the playoffs, I would imagine that they would have put in some kind of incentive structure that you get a $100,000 bonus if you push Kyle to the win. That is not non-existent in this sport for teammates to get spiffed on helping other teammates win, right? Especially in that complex, right? Those types of transactions have happened. So if you're Parker Retzlaff going into that race and you and your sponsor paid to be there and have plans to continue to pay to be there or whatever it is, and that is your path to the Cup Series, and RCR is no more than a service provider to the team that you're contracted with, you don't know him. And any fan out there that's watching this and listening and is on the fence, like, take it from that perspective, right? These drivers have to fight tooth and nail every day on track and off track for their careers to get a paycheck from these teams.
Yep.
Right? And they're required, these drivers in the Xfinity Series are required to raise millions of dollars so that they can race a car to make $100,000.
Yep.
And so, for Parker Retzlaff to have a shot at a top 5 and a win in the Cup Series, you do whatever you want, buddy.
Go after it.
Don't
hold back.
Don't hold back. And, enjoy your time there at the big show. That's just the best. That's the best and only way to put it. Because you know what? At the end of the day, it's the only thing that matters right now, Parker?
Winning.
That's it.
It's all that matters.
That's it.
And
right?
I should say, by the way, Parker Retzlaff, we did interview him on NBC, but I think it didn't make it on the post-race, which means it's probably on NBCSports.com. So if you wanted to see the interview with him, usually any of those that don't make it on the actual post-race end up on NBCSports.com. So go check it out. I saw some people talking about that on the social. Josh, did you have something you wanted to get in?
The only thing I wanted to say on the point of working with a teammate is it affects your personal brand as a driver. Do you want to be known as the driver who's the supporting driver, or do you want to be the driver that's known for going for the win? And who are you going to hire as a team owner?
I don't think I don't think Parker is a threat of getting known of being a supporting driver. I think it's just a threat of being forgotten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the big thing.
Parker Retzlaff gives Kyle Busch a push. Kyle wins the race, makes a playoff. The headline on Monday is not Parker Retzlaff pushes Kyle Busch to win. The headline on Monday is Kyle Busch wins and makes the playoff, breaks 50 race losing streak, whatever.
Yep.
Right? Like Parker Retzlaff is nowhere near the headlines. He might be mentioned somewhere, but like it doesn't, and all he gets is an attaboy at the meeting the next week.
Exactly. And
then
hey,
when it
you want to race again? So we'll need another $125,000.
Yeah, and then see what happens when he doesn't have money to go to Talladega. He doesn't drive the car.
Yep.
So they put somebody else in.
Yep.
Anthony Alfredo's driving the car, and then they're going to ask him to push Kyle Busch. Like that's the game. So it's just, you know what, Parker, Anthony, all of these drivers, right? Like keep fighting for money, keep fighting for your paycheck, keep fighting for wins, and build relationships, right? Like you got to get along with these teams. Like it's like you don't need to have. I don't want to sound like there's contempt for race teams in it, but it's just like, hey, just don't let their agenda and goals distract you from what your agenda and goals are.
Yep.
And at some point, your agenda and goals are going to align with theirs. And that's where the relationship comes in, right? Because when those agendas and goals align, then you have a good enough relationship to put a deal together with them. You'll be able to negotiate a contract. You'll be able to negotiate the deal that you want and drive the 3-car, the 8-car, whatever, drive for those teams.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you that here's another crazy scenario. It's like 3 years later when there's a ride open up, or 2 years later from the ride open up at RCR, and Parker Retzlaff is on the list, he could get chosen over another driver that has a win. He's got a winning experience, right? It's like, oh, had I won that race at Daytona 2 years ago, I would too.
Exactly, that'd be the response. Oh no, you only finished second. I pushed the guy for you.
You only finished second.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
Yeah, we need a guy. Sponsor wants a guy that has a win.
Yeah. Oh yeah, love that one. All right, we got to move on. Just some housekeeping. We don't even have to dive into these. Austin Dillon's penalty appeal was denied, so they will not be put into the playoffs. They will not get with the full benefit of that win from Richmond.
I know we're not going to dwell on it, but did you like how they scheduled it for after Daytona? Like, that was almost the message to me that they were not going to get it. Like, NASCAR was like, yeah, we'll deal with this after we already announced the playoff grid.
Like, well, we got one more week. We got one more week to get in.
Oh, that's right, Darlington. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I was confused this whole week. I was like, when I was doing the TV broadcast, I kept having to remind myself this isn't the cutoff.
Sorry.
I know, but it was a good joke. But no, it didn't land. Denny Hamlin got that weird L2 penalty for engine disassembly, which Dale Jarrett actually did a tremendous job explaining on the pre-race show this past weekend on Saturday. And I'm not going to dive into it, but long story short, it's a pretty massive penalty, and it was basically a clerical error. So, unfortunate for them. Announcement this week. I spoke to him right before, actually, and I was like, hey, what's going on? He's oh, this was last week. Mate, I'm announcing I'm going to Cup. Oh, okay, cool. Good luck. SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen, will be in the 88 for Trackhouse in 2025. Consequently, Zane Smith announced that he and Trackhouse parted ways. So best of luck to SVG. Hope it works out. He just told me he bought a house here, so he's real implanted. He's hoping for great success. For Zane Smith, man, this is a tough putt. And I heard I think it was Kevin Harvick's podcast was like, well, that's what happens when you pick one thing over the other, and now you're left out without a win. I think Denny had the same thing, and it was like literally the same thing you just said, which was like, well, now the guy doesn't win. And it's like, wait a second. A rookie in Cup on a rookie team starts to turn around the second half of the year, and because he chose a group that then didn't pan out for him, because he was in a basic what do you want to call it, Hunger Games for the third Cup seat, he is going to be like admonished by other teams. And I think it was Kevin Harvick who said he might not go back to Ford because they're not happy how he left. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, really? The guy won all those races for you, and it's kind of like, hey, this is a bigger opportunity than the one that was on offer. Okay, we're never talking to you again. Lose my number.
What an interesting, potentially unfortunate outcome. Potentially. What an unfortunate outcome for Zane so far. Hopefully the future is still bright for him. But like going back to our theme of the last couple of weeks since we started talking about Corey LaJoie, and maybe this will be the theme of the silly season with driver moves. We're just going to keep referring back to, did the driver win or not? Yes or no? Right? Like, is that at the top of our flow chart?
And here's the crazy part. If you see all these contracts being announced as of late in Cup, let me just tell you this. Not a single one that I know of is actually a multi-year. They're all 1+1s. Mm-hmm. Yeah, every single one.
Wow. Well,
1+1s.
My point that I was saying is, Trackhouse had one seat and they had two drivers. Right?
Yep.
Shane, Zane. They put one of them in the Cup Series at Spire. They put the other one in the Xfinity Series at Colleague. And, one of them won 3 races. The other one didn't.
Yep.
I'm not saying it was
and had a rough start. Had a rough start.
I'm not saying it was equal ground. I'm not saying it's comparing apples to apples. I'm not saying it's fair, because that's the point of this topic, right? Is that it isn't fair, right?
No,
you can win a rain-shortened race, and it's all of a sudden it just puts you in a different category. Not that SVG won rain-shortened races.
There is a driver who won a rain-shortened race who has been mentioned for things as late that I can't. I'm good
but like, SVG, he won. Zane didn't win.
Yep.
Like, if Trackhouse needs anything to help their bias, there you go.
Yeah,
you can miss me with all the road racing and street courses and blah 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 blah. Nope. Victories. Trophies.
Yep. Trophies. And I will say though, one thing on the contract lengths, very disappointing in my opinion. in the supposed, new era of the media rights deal being so large and that sort of thing. And to hear lots of these drivers signing basically 1-year deals, which means 6 months, is just there's no commitment there. Disappointing. Let's talk some broadcasting. It was a great night on NBC where Josh wants us to see this. That's a little cruel. I don't know if that's taken out of context. Basically, the quote that Josh is referencing here for Zane Smith was Justin Marks. I did see this where Justin said it was honestly a pretty easy decision for us because SVG checked a lot of boxes. SVG is a superstar and says there'll be a reason he won his NASCAR debut. Anyway. Well, let's talk broadcasting, as I said. Unless you have
my impression from that quote the first time I read it was like, ooh, cold. But now that when I read the quote on its own, it doesn't have to mean that he was talking about Zane.
Yeah, I think he was talking. He said he wanted to be a Shane-focused conference, and he's talking about the guy he just hired. Of course,
Shane's popular, he's a big name.
Yeah, huge name. He's got a huge amount of people.
The only reason why I brought that one up is right at the end. It boils back down to exactly what you said. He won on his NASCAR debut. It's just there's the checking the boxes. Apparently, the biggest box of them all. Has he won?
Got to win. So, as I mentioned, pretty big night for NASCAR on NBC. It was the highest Daytona TV rating on NBC since 2021, which is nice. Wow. Always great to see. Peaked at 4.2 million viewers from 10:45 to 11, which is often very normal for the races to gain viewers to the end. But even at 11 o'clock at night, which is great, which is up 6% from. Or no, it's the total audience delivery was 3.6 million, which is up 6% from 2023. So, hey, that's great. Glad you were watching, man. It was green flag, uninterrupted coverage. So basically, every green flag lap was shown to you. Maybe it was sort of the not NASCAR nonstop, or it was a ad that would come out around the screen, wherever. But every green flag lap was shown, which was pretty cool. And I think what was most gratifying the last few days is just, there's been a lot of great reaction. Obviously, Lee Diffie did a tremendous job with his call, a chilling, hair-raising call to the end there with Jeff Burton's son winning, which was so cool, and see Jeff's reaction. But a lot of us on the broadcast and talking to the production team had the comment of, like, that might have been one of our best broadcasts over the last 10 years. Just felt from top to bottom, the whole thing, the race was incredible. That everyone was on their A game, and it's one of those nights that in broadcasting, often you walk away and think there's 1,000 things we could have done better, and that's everyone from the production truck to the talent, to just all around. We all think, we could do that, and I thought it was cool. Like, I don't see this often, but a lot of the team was just like, nope, that was on it. We were on it. That's pretty cool. So big night, very cool. I know you loved that call.
I loved it. I was like, brought me to tears. I was like, oh my God. Jeff, your little boy has done it.
Like, done
it. I gotta watch that again after this. It was so good. It was just the energy that Lee brings to the booth is amazing. Rick Allen brought a different type of knowledge base and relationship and tie to the sport that is extremely valuable. And I will definitely miss hearing him on Sundays. But Lee Diffie is just brings the energy to a different level, and I think that he is currently one of the best, if not the best, play-by-play in motorsports, or really in the world.
In the world, I would say in the world
right now.
Yeah, I would say in the world he's up there.
But I really hope he gets a fair shot. I don't know why he didn't last, in NASCAR before.
Those were just little interim things where Rick was doing like Olympic stuff and that sort of stuff. So
I hope that he gets a fair shot and that the sport accepts him and the viewership accepts him, because that was like Alan Bestwick caliber in his prime caliber.
Yep. Lessons learned from his father. That's a lessons learned from his father call. Yeah. Although I've said this before, and I said this to Rick. Rick's call of Jimmy's 7th championship that final lap is unbelievable, where he's like Dale Earnhardt, Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt move over. There's a new one at this, the table or something. It's incredible. So he does an awesome job.
Do they think of that in real time, or do they pre-write those?
It depends on the person. Depends. So I've worked with some play-by-play people. I've seen write them out, and have some sort of like idea. I think there's that one at Charles Leclerc, one Monaco, that Alex Jacques guy who does the F1 TV. I think his was written out because you kind of know who's going to win that. But some I think often are just off the cuff, and maybe they have it planned, right? They have little things planned or little ideas planned. But yeah, I think mostly it's off the cuff for a lot of them, which is amazing. To be in that moment and be prepared. And I'm sure Daytona, it's impossible for him to prepare, but other races you might have 10 laps to go and who's going to win and that sort of thing, right? But it's live TV. There's no take backs. It's once you said it's out there. So as I say, you can say everything once. Mm-hmm. You might just only be able to say it once. So, also, wait, one other thing. Josh, look this up. Was that Harrison's 98th start?
Let me check Wikipedia.
I have a reason for this. Just quickly, viewers on YouTube and listeners, please bear with us for a second.
98 races run over 4 years. So yes.
So Jeff Burton, for years, and Steve Letarte started this probably 4 or 5 years ago. We used to have this discussion all the time in the TV compound about for young drivers in Cup, you didn't know you basically couldn't judge them until 100 races. It takes 100 races. It takes 100 races in Cup to know if they've got it or not. He won at 98. Kind of love that.
I'm pretty sure that Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson also took that many races.
It was just around that era when we were all talking about that. And to your point, that great point. It was around Chase Elliott. It was around Kyle. It took them that many to go win a race. So it's on pace. Pretty cool. NASCAR announced this week Mexico City in 2025. The Xfinity Series and the Cup Series will be heading to Mexico City at the Autodromos. Oh, how do we say it? Josh, you didn't put it in here. How am I supposed to say it? I can usually say it's the Rodriguez.
Oh, the course out there?
Yeah.
Let me find out.
I wanted the name.
Okay, hold on. I'll get it for you.
How can I do this in such poetic fashion without having the name in front of me?
I will. Well, let me paste it for
Rodriguez. It's Autodromos Hermanos Rodriguez.
You're close. You're actually kind of on the point right there.
Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. Yes, that's right. That's the one.
Oh yeah,
hey,
nailed it.
Nailed it.
First take.
It's not gonna be the exact. I knew I was damn close. It's not gonna be the exact circuit that F1 races on. They've changed some corners, and actually the back straightaway looks long, and it is going to be fast down into the stadium section. But that is the coolest thing, the stadium section, which they do that in Formula E. They do it in F1. That's basically a baseball stadium or something that you drive through. That's gonna be packed. It's gonna be epic. So, did you race down there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I raced there one time.
No way. How was it? What was the experience?
It was a great experience. I wrecked in practice, so made my team get out of the backup car, which is never fun at those international races.
Good job.
The race itself was not very memorable for me. I think I was 18 years old. I couldn't tell you much about it. Couldn't remember much about it. I couldn't even take you around the racetrack in my head. So I don't remember a whole heck of a lot.
Really stuck. Wow.
It did not stick.
You know what they say about guys, racers never forget?
I enjoyed Mexico City. I enjoyed Mexico City and kind of, got out a little bit. Everybody tried to, has their stories of trying to get out. I know Jeff Gluck already tweeted it, but I got out and wandered around with Jeff back in the day. And we found some little, I don't know, it was like a park or a market or something. It was just a bunch of people and played soccer with some kids, and I don't know. It was kind of cool.
That's awesome.
So it was a good time.
Because you were staying in NASCAR hotels, and weren't you, not supposed to leave or something?
Yeah, they didn't really want us to, or we were not supposed to. I can't remember. I feel like we rode a bus to and from the racetrack every day from the hotel, if I remember right. And, yeah, you were not supposed to leave, but, it wasn't like they had us handcuffed to our rooms. It just was
You shall
I just remember
not
thinking,
leave.
yeah. So I would love to go back.
Cool. Okay. Well, I think it's gonna be interesting. I like the idea of international cup race. Finally, it's awesome. Love it. Very cool. That track is cool. I love that stadium section. You have F1 who goes there. You got Formula E who goes there. I think it's fun when NASCAR is following those international series because that just shows the level of what Cup Series is. And I saw Chase Elliott had a great comment. I think she thought this was a really intelligent comment. And that was not that he's not intelligent, by the way. I guess that was a terrible way to say this.
It was actually an intelligent comment.
Yeah, wow. He's never said anything smart in his life. No. Sorry, Chase. Didn't mean it that way. I meant like this was. I had not thought of this in this way, and I thought it was really impressive. Was that he was like, what's cool about this is that NASCAR being a national sport and not an international sport, it has the following to go do something like this and to know that they're going to have a crowd that's commiserate to the size of NASCAR Cup Series and to know that the support will be there and to know there are fans that care about it and that sort of thing. And so I just thought that was a really cool way to look at it. Like, hey, they're doing this because there's going to be return on investment, because there's the support to do it. We've heard the rumors of Canada. That's because there's the support to do it. That's a cool thing. Chase Elliott probably hasn't thought about how big he is in Mexico, but he's probably huge. Probably well known. Daniel Suarez obviously will have a lot of support.
Yep.
So
NASCAR made big investments decades ago, maybe before it was really necessary, but they still packed the stands and packed those crowds, right? And now I think is a perfect time to be going and go international. I'm supportive of this. There's a lot of people that are they complain about it. They, I don't know if it's like the what do they call it? The crab in a pot theory or something like that. Have you ever heard of that?
no.
If you try to pull a crab, out of a pot, like the rest of the crabs will grab and try to keep them in it out of a boiling pot. I don't know. You can Google it. Google the boiling pot crab theory. Anyways.
Crab theory. Okay, yeah. Let's dive. Hold on. I have to dive right into that.
I'm not distracted by the people on anywhere that just think that it's stupid that we go to Mexico or stupid that we go to Canada. Yes, it's a lot of work. Yes, there's risk. Yes, it costs a lot of money. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Yes, you have to travel a lot. Whatever. That doesn't matter. Like, there's demand for our sport. There's interest. The time is now. We live in a global world, right? And we have a product that can have global reach. And what I appreciate, I think this comes from Ben Kennedy more than anybody. His willingness to say anything's on the table.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. We're talking to Mexico. We're talking to Canada. We're talking to Wimbledon. We're talking to San Diego. We're talking to Bowman Gray Stadium.
Cincinnati. We're talking.
We could race anywhere.
Everyone's talking. Yep. We can go anywhere.
We get street races in Chicago. We could race anywhere.
Yeah.
I think I appreciate that openness because that's, first of all, the next generations, like we're all online. Everything is open. You can't bullshit anybody anymore. Right? You just are who you are. Everything, authenticity is a premium in this world. And
it's all that matters.
It's all that matters. So I appreciate NASCAR, just being like, yeah, we're looking at everything. And just, like, don't waste your time trying to overthink, what like might be on our schedule, because everything could be on our schedule.
Yep.
And that's good for the sport.
That, for me as a fan, I think that's one of the cool things about the schedule releases and everything in that regard is for years, 2012 to like 2019, I didn't care about the schedule release because I knew it was the same thing as the previous year with maybe one minor alteration. But every single year, I think 2028, 2029, I can only dream what the schedule is going to look like because I feel like every single year there is just another racetrack on there that I thought there's no way we're ever going to race there. And somehow we're racing there. We're going back to the Rock. Montreal's potentially a possibility.
The traditional thinking, and maybe this isn't even traditional thinking, this could be legitimate thinking, is like the risk with this is you never get a chance to build, brand equity with an event, right? With a venue, with an event, if you're not good at doing these pop-up events or popping in and popping out or whatever, then people have a bad experience, right? The traffic is bad, the track sucks, like the ticket packages are no good, the viewing experience is no good. That's maybe the risk.
Yep.
And you don't want to lose the equity that we have in, these legacy venues, right? That become part of the sport. Bristol, Daytona, Darlington, Charlotte, but I don't know.
You didn't mention Richmond?
Well, Richmond is a legacy venue. It absolutely is.
I know.
It's
old,
like,
but it lost basically a date for this. Is essentially, I think, how it went down. So,
right.
Anyway, I agree wholeheartedly. I think it's awesome. It's so cool, and it's what the Cup Series always has been destined to do, and I'm glad it's doing it. So, we'll see. It'll be fun to watch. We do have an Xfinity Series section. We already talked about my race. Let's give a shout out to Ryan Truex, second win of the year on a part-time schedule. Looked like the caveman had walked out of that race car afterwards. Drove a tremendous race. I did text him afterwards, although he did beat me. He was the best driver. He had a very fast car, and he was the best driver of the really fast car because he constantly got himself to the lead by himself. He constantly, fought for the lead. It's second. Anytime he was shuffled out, he got right back. He earned that one big time, and I thought it was an impressive win. So shout out to our buddy there. I don't know what it does for him. He said the comment to me, and I think he said it's publicly, but basically I was like, hey, man, you want to go full-time again? And he's like, man, I think I would win more races here doing 8 to 10 races than I would at a full-time anywhere else. And I'm like, yeah, well, then I love that. Do it.
Well, remember your theory about drivers needing 100 starts to get it figured out?
Mm-hmm.
Guess how many starts Ryan Truex has in the Xfinity Series?
101.
98.
No way. No. Wow. I'm at 105 or something. Damn,
98. He's got 98 starts in the Xfinity Series, and out of his 3 wins, they've all come in the last 14 starts.
Wow.
So,
maybe it's 80 something in Xfinity.
So you either need 100 starts or you need 100 starts over the course of 10 years. If you're Ryan.
Well, I'm at I think just over 100 over the last 10 years. So that theory didn't work for me. I'm working on 110.
What about 600 starts? Yeah. How many do I need?
That's right.
Maybe the cars you drive does
maybe
play
that matters slightly.
It does
I guess if to his theory, what percentage of his starts have been in this car? The JGR cars versus
versus
the other stuff
and good equipment.
Yeah, it's massive. He's probably got a 30% hit rate. Wow, it's weird how that works.
I appreciate his outlook about enjoying part-time schedule versus full-time.
Definitely.
I appreciate it, but it's something that should be on the sports radar. You and I talk about this.
Yep.
It's just the schedule's hard and raising money is hard, right?
Yep.
It would cost Ryan and his management team $6 million a year.
Yep. To go to Gibbs.
To be in that car for a full season.
Mm-hmm.
Right? $5 million minimum.
Minimum. Yep.
So, or he can come up with a couple million, run 10 races, and still make his living, get a couple trophies, and a lot of weekends off. And I don't know, it's a pretty decent lifestyle. It kind of it's like throwing away the dream of a championship. But what does a championship really do for him in the Xfinity Series? Does he get an invitation to go raise another $6 million to raise Cup?
Exactly.
It doesn't win you a contract.
Nope.
Right?
Nope. Which, that's something that all the other formulas do is they give you a big check that can go to a team.
Right.
Yeah. What did you typed the most vibiest interview, or that Josh?
That was me. I just said he just had the most vibiest interview ever on the front stretch. I've never seen someone
I was going to text him and say, hey, man, next time be a little bit more excited, though. You're making us all look bad.
Him, though. It's just not him.
Yeah, I know. I've known him. He's one of my best buds, and that is him, 100%. Because people were like, man, he didn't even look like he was excited. I was like, well, you got to know Ryan. You got no right to know that. That's excited.
So moving on here, I saw
Yeah.
your notes about the Truck Series. We don't have to talk a lot about the Truck Series because I don't know if you guys watched it, but I will say Milwaukee is the best short track in the country.
Really?
The trucks were running the fence.
I did see that, which is tremendous. I never knew
It's
that was
so
going to be
cool.
a thing. That
Track
is
is
so cool.
awesome.
I went and tested there back in 2010 for Penske and everything. I hated that place. I was like, this place sucks. Now we ran right around the bottom. I had no idea.
I love Milwaukee.
Did
I love
you always
Milwaukee.
run out there?
I have raced. That track has always had that in it. It is not because of the wear on the pavement. There's something about that track, or it's something about the pavement, but it's always been that way. 20 years ago,
That is
I
wild.
raced a late model at Milwaukee and ran the third groove in a
That's
late model.
incredible. Why does that
Like,
work? It's a
there's-
flat track.
I don't know. It has something. I don't know if it has to do with the patch on the bottom and the age of the pavement, but yet, like, the track must have really,
I know what it is.
really good drainage.
Yeah.
Okay,
But I also
hear
know what
me
it
out.
is. Okay, go on. But I have
Here's
the
my.
answer.
You know, I'll get your opinion, but here's my opinion.
No, mine's
I
fact.
I think that the track is very, very well constructed underneath. And I think that the base layers are very strong and very sturdy, whatever it is. The ground does not move underneath. There's something there. I think it has great water drainage. And so I think it has allowed the pavement to wear without, like, losing its integrity.
Yep.
Because that's why we repave tracks over time, is because they get ruts in them, they get potholes, and we have to repave them. Well, I don't know. But that's my theory on Milwaukee.
Can I give you
because-
mine?
What's yours?
So IndyCars run there. This place is over 100 years old. IndyCar primarily ran there forever. That whole bottom groove. They would only run the bottom. I think everything that's ever gone there runs the bottom so much it's basically destroyed the pavement at the bottom and groove and slicked it off. That all that pavement out there, because it's a flat track, never got used. And so as it wore, it has aggregate that creates a ton of grip. That's why they run
I
out
love
there.
that.
That's,
What a
it's
theory.
fact.
That
It's
is
fact.
fact. That's so
No,
true.
it's not
Yeah,
even
they've had
theory. It's
way
fact.
more IndyCar races than they have anything
Yes.
else.
Which have just
That's so good.
completely pummeled the inside. So you mentioned it. Big new race in the Truck Series being announced this week. Stay tuned. Can't wait to talk about it next week. So when it's out there. That's it for NASCAR. Let's
Bowman
talk
Gray?
open wheel.
Is it Bowman
Yeah,
Gray?
Bowman. Yeah, it's Bowman Gray.
Oh, okay, cool.
Actually, so we shouldn't even say it because I don't even know if that's on the schedule.
I just guessed. I don't know.
No, I have no idea.
Wait, did NASCAR tease a big new truck? I don't know. Did they tease
No,
a big
no,
new
no.
truck race?
No, I'm teasing. I know things.
Oh, okay.
I know things. Yeah.
Le Mans.
Although
Trucks
I
at
don't.
Le Mans.
At Le Mans. How'd you know? What the? We're going to France. It's the first ever French NASCAR race, and it's in
Trucks
Le
at
Mans.
Nürburgring.
No, that's
10
the
laps
German one.
around the Nordschleife.
Nordschleife. Yeah, okay. You'd have no one left. Open wheel. F1 race.
3 pit roads.
Got to refuel around the lap. So they raced the Dutch Grand Prix this past weekend at Zandvoort in the Netherlands. Lando Norris won, secured the win after losing the lead on the first lap, but he won by the biggest margin yet this season.
Not cheating. They're definitely not cheating.
Definitely not cheating. Bit of a snoozer. One thing I did see, there was one of those those accounts on Twitter that basically have made me get off Twitter, which is those anonymous, like their profile picture is always like a driver's helmet or something, and they have tons of like weird stuff in their bio, and then they posted this video of Max going into the corner and saying how like the Red Bull's understeering a ton. It was the
Oh my
whole thing.
gosh, I saw that.
And the best part is, he literally gets loose. He gets sideways on the entry of the corner, like he's locked the rears under braking, basically, right? Like he's just over. So he corrects to the right, and then asks the car all at once in the center of the corner to then turn. Of course it understeered. You've just saturated the tire so quickly. And it's like, that's not understeer. That's called entry loose, or getting basically oversteer under braking and locking the rears. So learn your stuff. That really annoyed me. But nonetheless, the reason I bring it up, it does look like the Red Bull is not the Red Bull of 6 months ago. There was all those rumors about braking stuff. If you wanted a conspiracy theory about them losing some of that side-by-side braking and braking stability, that video did show that. It didn't show understeer. It showed that. So we'll see. We'll see if they are able to fight back and go against McLaren, who found all this speed. But a sad day for Americans who love F1. I mentioned it. An American tourist kicked out of Europe like they've been trying to do all summer to all of us. Logan Sargeant booted from the Williams car. He crashed in practice. They were able to rebuild the car, but it did have a lot of upgrades. It was basically his chance to then be on par with Albon, and did not, and destroyed it basically. And that was too much for Williams. So he has been removed from the car. Franco Colapinto replaces him, who's an Argentinian driver. And, I think this experiment can be looked at multiple ways. One, he was rushed F1. He was rushed F1 because they wanted to take advantage of all the Americans who were suddenly liking F1 and therefore get the American sponsorship. And so we're just going to rush this kid in F1 and we'll just deal with it. And I remember some of the quotes like, oh, we'll give him time to figure it out and that sort of thing. And then very quickly they changed tune. They decided to make him the second driver immediately. They then decided not, as a smaller team that can't create upgrades as quick, then made the choice of giving the upgrades to his more established and experienced teammate who they established as the number one because they suddenly decided, well, wait, this guy wasn't ready. Of course he wasn't ready. He didn't do enough time in F2. He was rushed.
Right.
So then it continues the waterfall until you end up in this position where they're constantly just ripping him apart in the media, and of course it's over. Like this relationship was done 8 months ago. It was done 2 years ago when it first started, but they just didn't. They hoped the entire time that the money comes through from the U.S. based sponsorship. They got a little bit from Duracell, but other than that, nothing else came through. And sure enough, the money's not coming through. The performance isn't there because you haven't given the guy an ample chance, and the relationship's over. So I think this is a great a tale of exuberance over logic, and unfortunately Logan Sargeant is the casualty and all. And I think he was a very when I look at his results in that year in F2, he was right at the front of F2, right there. And every one of those guys he's against has gone on to be successful because they were maybe made a test driver and then moved up and that sort of thing. He was rushed directly up, and of course it was a lot. In a really hard to car to drive and a really under resourced team. So I think they have as much blood on their hands of this situation as he does in crashing that car at the Dutch GP, and I will stand by that.
Yeah, you're right. At the end of the day, though, it doesn't matter. I mean, unfortunately for him, it's like unless he gets another shot in another manner, it just gets brushed aside as drivers that didn't make it.
Yep. In
the world of racing. Right? And it just shows you, he is a world-class driver. They're all world-class drivers at that level.
Yep.
And it's another story and a reminder that so much success and failure at that level in maybe all sports in general, I don't know, but definitely in motorsport is situational, right? Like all the pieces have to get put together. The car has to be just right. The team, the situation, the sponsor, all that stuff.
Well, one guy who may potentially have a long-term career if he wants it, but he basically said he doesn't. That's Max Verstappen. He was asked about Larson saying he's a better all-around driver. Max responded in a way that only Max could. That's fine. He'll go all the way to the bank with his $100 million a year in his next contract. Let's talk IndyCar.
For that. Good for Max for that response. That's a classy response.
It is a great one.
I
actually
love
that. Yeah, it shows he doesn't feel threatened, and he's just very confident, and that's why he's Max Verstappen. IndyCar raced in Portland this past weekend. Will Power fought back from the wreck on the restarts at Gateway to winning, dominated the second portion of the race, drove away from Pillow, who I thought was going to just wax them all. Wasn't the case. Roman Grosjean was a bit of a menace with his. He spun out into turn one, then tried to get back going again, nailed the car, then got going from there and nailed another car. And it was like, this guy, he's out of control. I did see him at the simulator today, and they weren't practicing spinning out. So, or maybe he was. I don't know.
You,
so, a little
you
bit
either die a hero or you live long enough to race like an American.
I love that. Oh, man. And there was, so there's some conjecture about the hybrid setup that's been, was launched earlier this year in IndyCar, not at the beginning of the season, but midway through the season, if the racing's been better or not. I will say the one thing is, and James Hinchcliffe pointed this out on the broadcast, when Roman's spun, the hybrid system allows you to restart it, so you no longer have to go up there and restart these cars, which I thought was a huge plus. So
super dangerous for the track workers, but go ahead, keep going.
What's dangerous?
It was a joke.
Okay, wow, that's terrible. Jeez, why do you do comedy? You're not even funny. I don't get it. Doesn't make any sense. That's it. We're moving on from this thing. This has been a pod for sure. Oh man, I just realized. So all this talk of Harrison Burton, and we totally forgot, and we even talked about him, that we had him in the waiting room, the second place finisher from Daytona this whole time. Kyle Busch was here. We are so sorry, man. I can't. What? It's probably your terrible jokes is why we forgot. Nonetheless, we're going to have to get you on next week. We're sorry, bud, but that's it for the Money Lap. Thanks for listening. Go to moneylap.com. Thanks for listening or watching. If you want to be heard on this show, go to moneylap.com to leave us a voicemail. Be funny, be irreverent, or be insightful, but don't be dumb. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. That helps us grow. And if you're listening, please leave us a 5-star review to be featured on this show. Follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We'll see you there.